What's up, y'all? Welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name is Edgar. I'm your YouTube older brother and the person you come to when you need advice or just insights into the world. This video is actually kind of special. It's going to be part one of a 3-part video series about 9-to-5 jobs. Now, if there's anything I'm qualified to talk about, it's 9-to-5s. Because I have one, well, I work 7 to 3:30, but you get the point. But also because I hire people for a living, so I know a thing or two about jobs. Anyway, in this series, we're going to be talking about 3 things: the good, the bad, and the how to interview better so you can get a job. Y'all thought I was going to say the ugly, huh? Well, you were wrong. That's actually going to be included with the bad. Now listen, y'all, we've talked about this before. I know that a lot of you don't want to have regular 9-to-5 jobs, myself included. But the reality is, if your family's not rich or if you don't already own businesses, then you're probably going to have to get a job at some point, at least in the beginning. And at the end of the series, I'm going to help you do that, so be sure to stick around for the whole thing. Over the last few years, side hustles exploded. You know, everyone and their grandma was doing something on the side in hopes of making extra money and eventually quitting their 9-to-5s. Again, myself included. But as much as I want to quit my job, as someone who hires people for a living, I do see the upside of a 9-to-5. And believe it or not, there are actually some great reasons to have one. So let's get right into those. Reason numero uno, learning. A 9-to-5, right, a job, is the only place where you will get paid to learn. I mean, think about it. As you get new jobs and you elevate your skills and your experience and you elevate your roles, then it all comes with new responsibilities and new tasks. And oftentimes you learn those skills on the job because you can learn everything you want from the textbook, but doing something is completely different. Don't get me wrong, if you want to go to school, do that. I mean, I have a video here that kind of explains some good reasons why you should. But if you do, just know that you're going to be paying thousands of dollars to learn things that you could learn on the job, realistically. But the truth is, knowledge isn't free, right? I mean, you go to school, you pay money. You buy books, you pay money. You buy a course, you pay money. You can find things for free on YouTube or other websites on the internet, but oftentimes you kind of got to dig deeper for those. It's a little harder to find, and it's also not delineated in a way that is easy to understand, so you kind of have to guide yourself. A job is the only place that's going to pay you to learn new skills. And in return, you spend some time there, you do some tasks for them, but that's besides the point. Now, this does require sort of a mindset shift because you have to think about your job as a learning experience instead of like just a job. And that's where a lot of people get caught up because they have this dream of eventually leaving, but if you see it as a learning experience, then that process is much easier. Okay, reason number 2, stability. Now, I'm not saying job security, don't get it twisted, because truthfully, an employer can fire you whenever they feel like it.
You're fired, get out of here.
So don't ever get too comfortable. But what I do mean is that you have a regular schedule, right? Regular hours. You work 9-to-5 or 7 to 3:30 or 8 to 4, whatever your schedule may be. But you work that Monday through Friday with very little flux. And a lot of people thrive off a routine, so that could be a good thing, because if you're working for yourself or you're an entrepreneur, then you're kind of working around the clock. I remember seeing this meme that said something along the lines of, I quit my 9-to-5 to not work 8 hours a day, and now I'm working 24/7. Anyway, a job also provides a regular income. Most places pay every 2 weeks. Some places do once a week, some places do monthly. But you always know when your paycheck is coming, and you always know that it's coming. Again, when you venture off on your own, especially if you don't have a team yet, bringing in a paycheck is dependent entirely upon your actions. If you don't do the work that's required to get money, you're not gonna get money. If you perform great, you're bringing in a lot. If you perform a little, you don't bring in that much. Now, jobs have to do with performance too, but truthfully, as long as you do the bare minimum, they're gonna pay you whatever your hourly wage is, so you can always rely on that. And I see that as a pro. All right, reason 3. This one's gonna be a little debatable for some, but I would argue there's a clear separation between your work life and your home life. Now, I know some jobs don't have a great work-life balance, but the reality is once you walk out of the door, you really can just be done. Work stays at work, personal life stays at home. There are clear boundaries. And especially if you're an hourly employee, your boss legally can't force you to work off the clock. So this is actually something that I've been working on recently, because in the past I had my work email on my phone and I was constantly getting messages like all hours of the day. And even though I wasn't required to respond to them, I felt inclined to because I was seeing them come in. And so I took it off, and I feel a little more disconnected from it when I'm at home because I'm not worried about those emails or those messages coming in all the time. Okay, reason 4 is one that you probably have not considered, and that's benefits. If you're young or if you don't have a family yet, you're probably not worried about this. But if you are worried about benefits, this is a huge one. Trust me, I deal with this at work. I see the numbers, it's wild. Have you ever tried shopping around for a personal benefits plan? Shit's expensive. I'm talking like $400, $500, $600 a month. That's rent in some states, yo. And medical costs are just as bad, so having benefits makes sense. So when you have a 9-to-5 and your employer offers a medical plan, the reason why it's pretty inexpensive is because they cover a large portion of it, oftentimes the majority. So for just yourself, you'd probably be looking at anywhere from like 10 bucks a month to, I don't know, maybe $100 a month, depending on how much your employer is covering. But that's a lot cheaper than $400 to $600. If you're doing your own thing, you're gonna have to pay that full amount. So benefits is definitely a pro of having a 9 to 5 to me. All right, reason number 5, and also the final reason, is gonna be a big one for a lot of people. Camaraderie. There's just something different about those coworker friendships, you know what I mean? Like oftentimes you don't even see them outside of work, but when you are at work, they're like your best friends. And I mean, you spend 8 hours a day with some of these people, so it makes sense that you become at least kind of close, and it's important that you get along with them. It's also interesting how in the workplace, there's this sort of intersectionality with people of all different backgrounds. Like you could be 20 years old and your best friend at work is 58. Personally, I share an office with a lady who's 67 and we're like this. That's the homie for real. I personally try to keep a sort of separation between my coworkers and my friends because I've seen it cause problems in the past with others. But for a lot of people, like their coworkers end up becoming their best friends, and they spend time together outside of work hours or on the weekends, and they just form these great bonds that I think probably wouldn't have happened elsewhere. So coworker friendships are special. Now again, back to venturing off on your own or being an entrepreneur, you can build these friendships, but you have to be a lot more intentional about it, right? You have to go out of your way to network with people and reach out to them, and you have to make it a point to try to build these relationships where, as in a job, it just kind of happens more naturally. And truthfully, in the beginning, trying to build something of your own can be kind of lonely because you haven't met enough people that are doing the same thing to form these tight-knit groups amongst yourselves. So if friendships with coworkers or just being around other people is important to you, then a regular 9 to 5 job is definitely the place to be. Now, if you ask me, I think those are some pretty solid arguments, and I think they can convince just about anybody that they should be getting a 9 to 5 job, or at least not be so hasty about quitting their 9 to 5. Especially the first point about learning, because truthfully, where else could you get paid to learn? If you know, tell me. I want to know. I want to be there. Put it in the comments. Sign me up. But with all of this said, if you remember, at the beginning of the video, I said that I also don't want to work a 9 to 5 for the rest of my life. And the reason for that is because working for someone else has some pretty serious downsides too. And if you want to know what those are, be sure to tune in next week when I break down why you don't want a 9 to 5. But in the meantime, check out this video here and everything else on my channel, and I'll catch you all next time. Peace.